Hey, I want to take an opportunity and kind of review some of the parts that we're going to be throwing into our little XR100 engine project that we're working on. Some things I bought, some things I didn't. So I want to highlight that because that's pretty cool and that's a big deal. So start off with our Kataco oil pump. Shout out to Katie C's. Thanks for all your help. You're a cool dude. Additionally, this is the CDI we will be using. Thank you, Vince. Thank you, T-Bolt. You guys are great. We'll go into some more detail on this CDI in a bit. This is what we bought. That's going to go inside the engine. So, what is it? Maybe not the most common of cases or boxes for engine parts, but shift up, clipping point, Spartan, they're all house brand Kataco. So it's basically a no-name Kataco 125. So that is a stroker crank, that is a big valve head, that is a race cam, that is a high compression piston, 57 millimeter bore size, which is equivalent to 115. Then we throw the stroker crank in there, brings us to 125. We'll open this box and see what a fantastic value this is. I'll throw all these part numbers in the chat, the description of this video, so you guys can buy the same stuff. This oil pump, we'll have a separate video on building that, putting that together. This CDI is fantastic. Normally, I used to nerd out and make my own CDIs. You can look up how-to videos on how to do that if you're seriously bothered or inclined to do so. TRC 5157. This is the Easy Start CDI. Whenever I had a stroker crank to an XR100, I'm always super cautious on initial timing during starting, and that's, I don't know, 0 to 500 RPM or whatever when you're kickstarting it. It never fails. People will run a hot CDI that's too advanced down low. It'll fire as the piston's coming back up and try to blow back through, kick your leg off the Kickstarter. That breaks Kickstarter gears. That's bad. This Easy Start CDI makes it so much nicer to kickstart. I have never broken a kickstart shaft with my stroker XR100s using CDIs like this. Like I mentioned before, I have made my own in the past. This one I'm excited to use. Even cooler is when we open this guy up, we can see this little brass screw and these two little wires that kind of boop go together. When these wires are connected, you can use that brass screw and you can dial in a rev limiter. Two things here. Run it without a rev limiter. Run these wires into a clutch perch switch, which means the rev limiter is only engaged when you pull in the clutch. So you're at the gate, clutch is pulled in, full throttle. Now you kind of have launch control and you just dump the clutch and take off. Or, leave them connected. Pay attention to, so many of these kits from Japan have dyno plots. There's an RPM limit on the dyno plot. Set your rev limit to that RPM, you won't have any issues. So many people over rev the shit out of these, and yeah, they just have a bad time. We don't do that here. Great CDI, looking forward to using it. And it should work with everything you have on that bike already with the lights and whatnot. Now, the fun part, this shit up box O stuff. Not only do we get a nice plastic case, we also get cool parts inside. We get instructions in Japanese. No, I don't speak Japanese. You can take your phone, take a picture, it will translate it for you. Super handy. Additionally, the number 7 in English is still the number 7 in Japanese if you're looking for torque specs. Gasket set. I want to take out the piston, rings, and pin, and let's get a close up on that dome with valve reliefs. We get a super cool shipped up sticker that says "Forever Heat at Heart." Sure, I mean, I support that, whatever. It's cheap parts and I go fast. Then, super cool, we got a total oil seal kit for the whole engine. Super handy because we're taking the whole thing apart. This is our camshaft, high cam, super waste cam, fancy cam. We are going to measure some of these parts in a future video. We're going to get this cam profile, we're going to compare it to stock, see what it's doing for us. Here is the famous Spartan head shift up clipping point, Casado, whatever you want to call it. Big valve, big combustion chamber cylinder head. We are going to talk about what all that means and why. Well, let's open up this super oily guy. Note those valves in there. That is a 28mm intake valve. Stock is definitely smaller than that. I'll remember at some point. We get a big intake port and a moderate exhaust port. Valve stem diameter is 4mm, which is smaller than standard. And what does that mean for us? It means that the air has to move around that valve stem less because it's smaller. That's a big deal. We also get this is a 57mm cylinder ready to go with oil cooling ports. That's a big deal. It's a pretty nice looking cylinder. Looks like the cross hatching is done quite well. I am pleasantly surprised. You know, we'll do some measurements on this guy, take a look. Here's those oil cooling ports. Note, the geometry at the bottom of the cylinder is not a big open cavity. It's small, goes in and out in series. There's a bar that will go across this. We'll look at that, cross that bridge when we get there. Compare that to your trail bikes cylinders. If your cylinder does not require a crossover bar on the outside and it's just bolts with washers, that means there's flow happening behind that. If there's flow happening behind that, you take those off and you add an oil cooler, chances are it's not going to go through that oil cooler because it's going to follow the path of least resistance, which is behind there. So a lot of guys will say, yeah, I added an oil cooler, but I don't think it does anything. As long as you have a setup like that, where the bypass happens behind closed doors, let's call it, yeah, you're not going to get any oil flow through there. And that's bad. It can make you think that your oil cooler doesn't do anything, because it's not. At the bottom here, paper gaskets. Put some of this stuff back in the box. Open this guy. Everything is bagged and coated in oil, which is really, really nice. This stuff could sit in this box or these bags, and I don't have to worry about any sort of corrosion happening. So check this guy out. Notice it does not have a full web. You can see that shape. Comes ready to install with bearings. And if I can just do I have this? Here is the stock crank with the full web. Here is the shift up crank without the full web. Some pretty cool differences here. Let's see if I can highlight that. You can see at the top of this rod, there's a little hole. This would be splash fed lubrication, where this guy does not have that hole. Inside is the oil hole. It is pressure fed. That is, considering this price point, considering these parts, the engineering that's in them, what a deal. The whole shift up kit bought off a wee bike. I think I paid like $500 for everything shipped up in this bin. Crank, piston, cylinder, head, cam, gaskets, seals, a pretty cool little box. Keep everything in. It was like $500. You guys will spend $200 to $300 on PBR or Trail Bikes 120 kit, and then you want more, so then it's going to be a camshaft from webcams, which raised their prices a lot over the past couple of years. It is silly to order a dirt bike cam these days. $200 for a cam. So now I still have the stock head, the stock crank, and there's no way I'm gonna get the bang for the buck that this kit is gonna give you. So fantastic deal. Shipped up again is the Taco house brand. Coping Point, Spartan. It's all the same parts. You guys remember my black XR100, which is probably the most spicy engine one that I have at the moment. It's a very, very revvy 115 with, gosh, a 10-year-old Spartan head equivalent. I think it was clipping point back then. So durability's there to take care of it. I set a rev limiter. I did some nice heat cycles for braking, and we will cover all that in these videos. And just rail the heck out of it all the time. That one's starting to show its age, starting to get pretty tired. But I'm gonna do some magic in that one and you don't get to see it. That's it for our unboxing, that's our parts. Carburetor, exhaust, all the external engine things we'll take care of at the end. I'm gonna upgrade that clutch, but I got a few tricks up my sleeve that I'm gonna show you that's super budget friendly. All these parts are not gonna break the bank, and we can have a ton of fun, do some cool stuff. So